Edwin, welcome to HGE Cook. Today we're going to be making pork spare ribs with a side of pasta with a homemade clam sauce and sauteed spinach, mushrooms, and onion. So for the spare ribs, what we're going to get started with is we're going to just sprinkle it with salt and coarse ground metally pepper. And we're just going to start that out in the oven at 250. We got 2 racks today, so I'm just going to get started. When you're sprinkling it, you want to be generous with it, but not so much with the salt, because you don't want it to come out with too much salt, especially with all the other flavors we're going to be adding in. The pepper you can be more generous with because it will add a little bit more flavor to it, but it's more of to help tenderize it right now. So we rub it in after you sprinkle it on. Flip it over and hit the other side. The reason we're using spare ribs is because there is more meat on it, the rack, so it works out more. But we're going to be doing it in both a roasting pan, as you see here, and on a baking sheet. So that way we can show you that it can be done either way, but not just that, to show you the difference in doing it the different ways. We have our oven preheated to 250 degrees. I'm going to rinse my hands before messing with anything else, because we are messing with raw pork and you don't want to cross-contaminate anything. So you want to make sure you at least rinse your hands. And put the roasting pan on the bottom rack. And the cookie sheet on the top. And we're going to leave that in for half an hour. Now while that's cooking, we're going to get started on the sauce for the ribs. So what you're going to need for the sauce is 3 18-ounce bottles of original barbecue sauce, 1 bottle of mustard, a bottle of steak sauce, a bottle of Caesar dressing, half a cup of soy sauce, 4 teaspoons of hoisin sauce, and you're going to want a cup and a half of any kind of cola. Today I'll be using cherry cola, a cup of apple cider, and 2 cups of cream soda. That's what I forgot to grab. So now to get started on the sauce. We start obviously by opening the barbecue sauce. You want to just get the entire bottle in there, and don't throw the bottle away. We're going to be using it in a minute. So while we're doing this though, I feel like saying this is a recipe that I've mashed together with other recipes. Like, I've taken a few different styles of making pork ribs and mashed them together into this one recipe. The soy sauce. The soy sauce is to help thin it out while giving it an extra depth of flavor. The steak sauce is to give it a little bit of kick. You want the barbecue sauce mainly as the base because it will add good flavor to it. But it will also add the thickness that you're looking for with all the thinner ingredients that we're adding in. The Caesar dressing, I've heard people say it's kind of gross on ribs, but it actually adds a really nice flavor that you wouldn't normally expect to see coming from it. Especially when combined with other ingredients like barbecue sauce and steak sauce. So we set aside the barbecue sauce because what we're going to do is we're going to fill it up halfway with water and shake it vigorously to get all the rest off the sides. You don't want to fill it up the entire way because then it cuts down on how much it can actually get from the sides. We're going to actually do the same with the steak sauce. Come on. There we go. Now there are a few ingredients that I forgot to mention in the sauce. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking half of a red onion and 4 cloves of garlic. Well, half of a red onion and 4 cloves of garlic. And that way we can add that together to help tie together the pasta because we'll be using white onion and garlic in the pasta. Looks kind of weird right now, but it'll look a lot better when it's done. And we're going to add 2 teaspoons of tarragon and 3 of hickory apple butter seasoning. So now for the 3 teaspoons of hoisin. The hoisin is really salty, so you don't want to add too much, not to mention the whole reason we're adding it in there is to help tie together the seafood flavor from the clams that will be in the pasta. Whisk this together before we add the soda or the apple cider. Those are both carbonated, so you want to wait to add those in. And the last thing to go in will be the mustard. So we have 1 cup of apple cider, 1 cup of black cherry cola, one and a half cups of cream soda to start with. We will add another half cup later on after the ribs have been cooking for a while. And we will also add the onion and garlic later on. But I will get both those mixed together to start. Just to show you what we're going to be working with. Rinse out the hoisin from your previous measuring spoon. And you're going to add 4 teaspoons of mustard. Just regular yellow mustard. So there's 4. We'll mix this and set it aside. Now the sauce has better color and everything is blended better together. So for the onion, you're going to use 1 large onion. We're using red onion because we will be using it in the sauteed veggies as well, and that will help tie together the flavor from the veggies along with the ribs. So everything is more of an accurate and complete meal instead of seeming like 3 separate dishes altogether. Now you don't have to cut it up very small because you will be blending it. We're going to start with half the onion. And 2 cloves of the garlic. We're also going to be throwing cilantro in here. Now with the cilantro, we actually want the stems because the stems provide more flavor than just the leaves. So you'll get more of a strong cilantro flavor to go with it. An easy way to peel your garlic is to smash it with a knife using the butt of your hand. Then peel comes right off. Cut where it connects to the rest of the clove of garlic. Just at the bottom, you want to barely get that part off. Now that we've got those in there, we're going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sprigs of the cilantro and throw it directly in. If you're having difficulty getting it to move around in there, you can break the onion up a little more to provide more room for it to work with and to help it go through. You can also, since we are using apple cider, you can also add a splash so that way you have that liquid already in there to help it work. Now it's going to come out kind of thick, like that. That's actually what you want. Too thin, and it would mess with the rest of the sauce by thinning it out too much. Too thick, and you're going to just be left with chunks of onion and garlic. That's not what you want. So. Now that we have the other half of the onion in there, we will grab the 2 of the cloves. Another way is just using the heel of your hand directly. It's also safer this way. Less of a chance for you to be able to cut yourself. Which we don't want anyone getting hurt while they're cooking it. So just like before, 5 more sprigs of cilantro. 2, 3, 4, 5. Fold them over. And a splash of the apple cider. Get that started. Shake it. You're going to set that aside. You'll be brushing the ribs every half hour with the sauce and the emulsification that you just made. But for now, because we are going to be using brown sugar to sprinkle on, we need to use molasses and pure white sugar. This way you can control how dark you want your brown sugar to be. Alright, pause it. So I have 2 cups of plain white sugar in the bowl already. I'm just gonna put 2 spatulas full of molasses. Now you mix it with a fork so that way it doesn't just clump together, but it still mixes all the way through. half hour of having the ribs in, you're not going to notice much of a difference. They don't look as raw now, so that's always a good thing. See how your oven's working then. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sauce the ribs. We're going to start with the onion garlic mix. We're just going to get it on there. Now, I would recommend using a barbecue mop, which I do not have at the moment, but a barbecue mop makes this go quicker and you can get it on there more thoroughly. Now before you put it in the rest of the sauce, you want to wipe it off. Rinse it and wipe it to make sure you get the sauce on there instead of it sticking to just the onion and garlic. But with this, we're going to use a ladle. Because of how thin it is right now, we're just going to use a ladle and ladle it over. You want to make sure you get it nice and covered. So depending on the size of the spare ribs, 4 to 5 ladlefuls should be good enough. Like that's 3 and 4. Add a little more to the side. Don't worry if it runs off into the pan. You actually kind of want that because later on we'll be adding a little bit of water to the pan to make sure that sauce doesn't burn to it and to help steam the ribs at the same time. The brown sugar will be set aside for the last 4 times we baste it, so the last 2 hours of the ribs cooking. Each time you go to baste it, you will sprinkle brown sugar on top. And now back into the oven. like how the onion's like turning the glaze kind of purple. Looks cool.
Not only that, it's even purple on the...
That's from the onion. Oh, we're gonna make sure this is set properly. What is going on with this thing? It's like not the right size, dude. Too small, but like half an inch. Now this time we're going to add some water to this pan because we dumped the drippings out of this one last time. But this one we need, because if we're doing the roasting pan, we're doing that so that way it steams throughout the meat. So we're going to add water to it to help the sauce from burning to keep from burning from the bottom and to help it steam. You did make the title cooked, not cooking, right?
Cooking.
The name of the show is HGE Cooked. And you want to avoid getting it on the ribs. You just want to put it in the bottom of the pan. Just like that. So now that I have the clams, we're going to get started on that. For the pasta, and we're going to cook it in apple cider like we used in the sauce for the ribs. What's up, Lily? We have, doesn't say how many, 1.26 pounds, so 1¼ pounds of clams, and we're going to start by rinsing them off. Throw them directly in the pan. Now we add the apple cider. Just enough to cover them most of the way. We're going to cook them on medium. We're going to be cooking them until they open. But while we're doing that, I'm going to get the sauce started, prepped for the pasta. So just like we did with the onion and garlic for the sauce, for the ribs, you're gonna peel it. We're going to cut it into small enough pieces to be able to fit the garlic in there as well. And it is time to bake the rib. Can you stop the timer?
No, your mom's calling.
Oh. Dad brought back some.
Yeah, I know they brought back some. I just wasn't sure if they were enough or not for you.
I don't think they have the cans and the shells.
Well, no. And then we'll impart more flavor. I don't know that you plan it.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a... Yeah, grab a can. That'll work. Thank you, Mom.
You're welcome.
Alright, love you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
So there's one clove. Two cloves. And
Put this in the heel so that your foot slips right in.
the difference with this one though is we are going to add parsley along with the cilantro. Now with the parsley, we're just going to be using the leaves.
Pretty much is.
Let me see. When crushed up, it'll come out to about a teaspoon. So you're going to be using 2 teaspoons of parsley. And 5 sprigs of cilantro. Now, add apple cider like the first time. And repeat.
Not much different than anything else, really. Not really. I don't have to run out there. I know.
So it comes out to 3 cups. Now it's time to baste the ribs. Since we are going to be letting the sauce for the pasta cook for 2 hours, now is when we're going to start using the brown sugar on the ribs. So first, you pour sauce on it to baste it. You take your homemade brown sugar. It'll clump up because it hasn't dried all the way. If you want it to dry more, I recommend making it the day before. But for what we're doing, it's fine to make it the day of. So the clams have already opened, so now we're going to turn it all the way down to low. We're going to start adding in the heavy cream. You're going to be using 1 quart total of heavy cream. And you're going to add it in at different points throughout. You don't want to add too much in at a time or too so. But you can add too little because there's no really such thing. Start. We're going to add cream cheese to help thicken it, but keep it creamy at the same time. And you're going to add the full 8 ounces of cream cheese. Get the cream cheese down to the bottom of the pan so that way it starts to melt. That's all the instructions for now. That's 1 1/3. Okay, 2 cups. Wait a second. I gotta clear up. Right. So the cream cheese is almost completely melted down, which is exactly what we want to see. And turn it up just barely to medium low. Now we have 2 cups of a 50-50 blend of Gouda and Havarti. We'll throw that in later because all we want from that is to melt down. Right now what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 1/3 cups of sour cream. And get that mixed in. Alright, now that we have that mixed in, we're going to add salt, pepper, and a teaspoon of tarragon. Yeah, teaspoon and a half. And you're going to add salt and pepper to taste. Again, we're using coarse ground peppercorn medley. And you want to do fresh ground because it has more of an intense flavor. so you don't have to use as much pepper. Half a teaspoon of salt. Stir that together. And you're going to just let that marry together. You want to wait for it to start to simmer before adding anything else to it. While we're waiting for that, we're going to measure out 2/3 cup of grated Parmesan and Romano. Parmesan and Romano and the Gouda and Havarti will add more of a smoky flavor to it. The Parmesan and Romano you can actually add in at any point because it's less likely to burn, so I'm going to add that in right now. That's all for the audio, so now I'm going to get the show going again, just so we have something to look. A little under 15 minutes till we have to baste the ribs again, so we're just going to let everything sit, let the sauce start to simmer, and I'll be back when it's time to baste. So, you're only going to be basting the ribs after this 2 more times, and you're going to let the sauce for the pasta cook, just stirring occasionally for the first hour. When it hits the second hour, you will add the onion, garlic, cilantro, parsley mix and the Gouda Havarti blend. And you will continue to stir occasionally, but not too often as to make it overwork the sauce. I'm also going to be adding another 8 ounces of cream cheese after I put the ribs back in the oven. So you only add the first 8 ounces, let that cook in for half an hour, then the second 8 ounces to thicken it even more. Let that cook in for another half an hour before adding the rest in. And with the brown sugar on the ribs, you sprinkle as much on it as you would like. The ribs are back in. So now for more cream cheese and a splash more of heavy whipping cream. And we're going again for the ribs. Just gently drop the cream cheese in so you don't splash it. Alright, and then you just stir occasionally for the next half hour before adding anything else to the sauce or basting the ribs again. All right, good. So now that we have the ribs going for the second to last basting, and the sauce is going to be cooking for the next hour and 15 minutes actually, because we want to give the ribs 15 minutes to be able to rest after we're done cooking it. We're also going to get the sauteed veggies started, which will be 32 ounces of mushrooms, 24 cups of spinach. Add the spinach in as it cooks down to make more room in the pan. And we will be doing 1 medium red onion to go with it. We'll be cooking all that in light sodium soy sauce and hickory apple butter seasoning. Forgot the towel. Right here. With the red onion, you're going to dice it up to your preferred size, keeping in mind it will cook down. But before we get the veggies started, we're going to add the onion, garlic, cilantro, and parsley mixture to the sauce for the pasta. Add 2 more teaspoons of tarragon. And at this point, if you want to add more salt or pepper, go for it. Here's the Gouda and Havarti for the sauce. 2 cups. Onion, garlic, cilantro, and parsley mixture. And stir it in. You want to stir it until you don't see separate clumps of green and white. That's how you'll know that it is completely mixed together. And you're going to let that simmer for the next hour and 15 minutes till all the flavors blend together. There's the 1 teaspoon. Two teaspoons. And stir. You want the sauce to come out looking slightly green, kind of like a greenish white color. And now for the veggies. You're going to start with 16 ounces of mushrooms. And you can cook this half the batch at a time. Keep in mind I am cooking enough servings for 10 people, so adjust the recipe, but this is a good dish for a dinner party. Put the spinach on top. Add a splash of the low sodium soy salt. Extra virgin olive oil. And only a splash of the red wine vinegar because you don't want it to be too acidic, because the onion will add acidity to it as well. And a splash of sesame seed oil. The soy sauce and sesame seed oil are to give it kind of an Asian flair while not overpowering any of the flavors of the veggies. Grind coarse ground peppercorn medley into it. And because of the low sodium soy sauce, you do not need to add any salt. Going to cook that on medium, mixing it with tongs so you can actually turn it all over and get it mixed together. Now you're going to be sauteing the veggies for the entire rest of the time that the sauce is going and that the ribs are going. You can dice up the red onion to whatever size you prefer. I personally like it smaller, so that way it mixes in more thoroughly. Pulling off the top layer of the onion, because it helps you to peel the skin off a lot easier if you just take the entire top layer. And because we're only doing half the batch at this point, you only add half the red onion.